All right. So now we're going to do a little technical exercise together so we can sort of figure out and understand the topology of the actual CyberForce network. So before that, we're going to play with an experiment to show some basic understanding of how IP address actually works and IP networking will actually works, right? So that's what we're going to do first. So first off, right? So let's get the IP address of our two machines here. So this one, ETH0, we have 237.246. That's what we have there. And over here, we have over here we have 237.129. So okay. So the first exercise is okay. The first exercise is we're going to make a TCP connection from our Kali box, which is 246, to this Ubuntu box, which is 129. Okay, so 129. So let's do that. So let's do a TCP connection, and to do that, we could do something like this, right? 129. Connection refused. Okay, let's play with here. Let's do. Let's go here. Okay, IF can fit. Let's just do a netcat. So I'm gonna open a netcat listener on 8080 so we can create a TCP connection to that, right? So boom, 8080. And then we can do netcat, right? And then we can do hello from our Kali box here, right? And over here, right, we have that. So you know, say I'm on this machine and I want to see what are the internet connections to this machine. How can I check that? Anybody?
You could do a netstat and
yes.
then see which port it's connecting on. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the answer. So we do a netstat and check it out, right? So this right here is our server, right? Our server here is on Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is, let me scroll up a little bit here. Ubuntu is 129, right? So let's check our netstat command, right? So this is our Ubuntu 129, and it's listening on 8080. So this is our TCP connection right here, right? We're getting that Kali from 246, and it's connecting from. So this is a client, and it's connecting to our server at 129. So if I were to do a IP blocking, right? Say this was a hacker connection, right? From 246, then I could run an IP table commands, right? To set up a rule to block that IP address, and then boom, this Kali box won't be able to connect to me anymore. So that's normal IP routing. So now let's jump onto the actual test range and see what the situation is, right? So far, let's see here from over here. Once again, let me do a history grep blue team. Right, so this is the Ubuntu box. Oh yeah, so before that, I just want to do a, so for the VPN, my Ubuntu box is 10.80.2. So I'm going to SSH to it. Okay, so that's SSH to it. And over here, I do a tune 0. Over here, it's 10.8.0.3. So SSH routine. All right. So my IP address right now is 10.8.0.3. So if you remember at the very beginning, I did for my VM to VM, I ran the netstat command to show the different IP address, right? The client and server. So if I ran a netstat command right now, what will be the client, my Kali box IP as seen on this blue team box?
Should be that 10.8 network.
Yes. So regular routing, it should be this 10.8.0.3. But let's see what happens, right? Let's run our netstat command and let's see what happens. we run our netsat command, right? And right here, check it out, 2.0, 10.8.0.3. But if you look down here, there is no 10.8 at all.
That's because we're coming in, because like the last login that it says up there tells me a clue that it comes from an internal cloud app. So I thought that maybe we're coming in from the VPN concentrator. So that becomes our.
So okay, so basically, I think what you're getting at is our machine is not directly routing to the server that we're trying to get to, right? So there's probably some jumps in the middle potentially that is doing some type of translation of the IP address, right? That's probably what's happening. So according to the audience, how can I check sort of the different connections that I have to make to that routes me to this final destination? How can I do that? Yes. So Jerry typed in the text. It's going to be a trace route. So let's do a quick trace route. And a quick spoiler for the blue team students that are listening. We might have a score challenge where you might have to use trace route, but to get points for it, you're going to have to show how trace route actually works. Not just run trace route, but show evidence that you understand what's the underlying mechanism that traceroute uses to actually figure out all these values. So we run traceroute and we see it's 2 hops away. So first it jumps to this 10.8.0.1, and then finally it gets to our destination. So my guess is that this 10.8.0.1 is doing some type of natting, right? It's doing type of natting, network address translation, so that when this final destination gets here, our original IP address does not appear on the actual in host itself. So this is very critical in terms of to know this detail. It's very critical because it sort of is a foundation of you being able to understand what you can and cannot do. For instance, at the very beginning of this demo, I was sharing like, oh, you were able to find the Kali IP address, and if you ran an IP tables command, you could have blocked that IP address, right? But in this case, if you found some IP address that you believe was doing some malicious stuff, you won't be able to block it. And this is another note right here, right? So check it out. I came from 2 different IPs. I'm connected from the Ubuntu box. Ubuntu box is 8.0.2, and my Kali box is 8.0.3. But from on the server itself, it's seeing me as both 6. So from the server, it looks like it's coming from the same IP address, right? And so now I want to share a little bit of history about the CyberForce competition. And this is an issue with most of these cyber defense competitions, right? These red-blue teaming competitions, is that a technique that is very powerful in the competition is blocking the IP address. So basically, red team will have their IP address, they run their attacks, blue team will find those IP address, and they're like, oh, that's the IP address, block, 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 block. And what ends up happening is that red team is not able to do anything because it's either don't have the infrastructure to quickly change their IP address, right? Or the block that they're given is very limited, that, in terms of the rules. So when blue team blocks all the IP address that red team has access to, then red team can't do anything. So in earlier competitions, this natting was not here. So blue team could block it. But I think what the white team, the infrastructure team saw that was sort of very limiting to the competition. Like, that's not the whole of cybersecurity, is blocking IP address. There's so much more to defensive skills and red teaming attacks beyond just blocking IP address. So what the infrastructure team for CyberForce competition decided to do was they decided to create this natted system so that all traffic from both the green team, which are acting as normal users, and the red team is coming from the exact same IP address, right? So they made that decision so that you no longer have that annoyance. You're kind of killing the competition by just making it about blocking IP address, right? We kind of remove that. But in our opinion, as sort of the red team leaders, we do agree that it's an important skill set. So Jesse, I think Jesse is kind of be responsible. He has this idea of we're going to implement a scenario where we're going to test your ability on your ability to block IP address. And no spoiler, but we'll test that. And then once we test that, then it's like that's done. We're not going to have you use that technique anymore because we already verified that you know how to do it. And now we're going to move on to other important attacks that you have to experience and know how to deal with beyond just using the IP address block, right? So yeah, that's what I had for this demonstration. And this fact right here, unfortunately, last year, I believe a lot of the red team and even the blue team was not aware of this, right? So that's why I thought it was really important to share this so they understand how this works and the ramifications of it. Earlier, I met with some of these core red team members right here, and we did a technical walkthrough about reverse shells. And this aspect of this topology has huge ramifications for the type of shells you can use as a red team. So that's something else to keep in mind. Okay, there's some comments, and I'm gonna answer it after this, right? Because that's gonna touch into some stuff we want to keep to our internal red team itself. But with that, let's stop this.